Jordan, thank you for coming. Here you are. You're really excited. We're excited to have you. You're on Shark Tank. What was it like being on Shark Tank and then they say no?
I think, me and my brothers, we were prepared for anything, right? We were competitive athletes growing up, and we said to ourselves going in, like the expectation was, hey, if it doesn't go the way we want it to go, at least 8 million people are going to watch it. It still reruns to this day, and we still get a lot of views on it. And we're going to go out and raise money from angel investors. So we set our expectations going in. We had we didn't think we were going to get a deal, honestly, just because there wasn't a lot of beverage deals ever done on that show. So we knew that. So we set our expectations accordingly, and we left that, I think, not discouraged at all, but really motivated and inspired to take their feedback, make the changes that we needed to make, go raise the money from somebody else, and then continue building the business, which I think we've done pretty well.
How did you get on the Shark Tank?
This is a great story, and we like to refer to this type of story as creating your own luck, because there certainly was some luck involved, but we made it happen. And one thing we like to do from time to time methodically is leverage LinkedIn. It's a professional platform where professionals can meet. For those who don't know what LinkedIn is, you should check it out. And funny enough, we were just doing a general scan of our feed, and one of our connections in the industry had posted, hey, is anybody interested in applying for Shark Tank? They're looking for some emerging food and beverage brands for season 9. And we had never planned to be on Shark Tank. We actually thought it was a distraction. We wanted to stay focused, but we were getting ready to raise money, and we saw this on LinkedIn, and we said, hey, we think we have a great story. We'd love to apply and see if they take us. So literally a week later from submitting that on LinkedIn, we got a call from a producer saying, hey, we read up on your story. We've tried the product. We love it. We would love for you guys to be on or come out and film for the show and see if you can make it. So there was a couple more steps that we had to do, but it was just right place, right time on LinkedIn, throwing our hat in the ring and then running with it from there.
Were you guys hesitant at all about going on the show?
Yeah, the first thing we did was we had a quick little board meeting with me and my 3 brothers, and then our lead investor at the time. So we had a 4-person board, and basically we said, hey, here are the pros, right? We did like a basic exercise. Here are the pros, here are the cons. And we couldn't really list too many cons, but the big one was worst case scenario, they hate the product and we don't get a deal. And basically that's what happened, was like they didn't really like the product and we didn't get a deal. But the upside in that situation was you still get 8 million people, and we could control the narrative. So how we controlled our behavior, we said, if that happens, as long as America thinks that these 3 brothers are hard workers, honest, passionate entrepreneurs, and that's still a win. So the pros outweighed the cons when we made that decision with the board that day.
So tell me the beginning. It's like, how did you guys come up with the product? I know you have a name change, so let's start at the beginning.
Yeah. So I was a freshman student athlete. I played basketball actually at Philadelphia University, and we would have 5 a.m. practice, and this is 2015 was my freshman year. And we would have 5 a.m. practices every day. And then I had 8 a.m. Business management class. And I found myself falling asleep in class quite a bit. So I would stop on the way to a convenience store to grab like an energy drink. And the only thing I could find was energy drinks like Red Bull and Monster, which are loaded with sugar and artificial flavors and colors. So wouldn't put that into my body. And then on the coffee side, I loved coffee, but the only bottled coffee was Starbucks, which 40 grams of sugar, much worse than the energy drinks, 300 calories. It was more like a milkshake than anything. So I was like, why isn't there something that's in between these two? Like you have these 2 massive categories in food and beverage. Why isn't there anything in between that serves the energy I'm looking for, tastes great, but also is extremely healthy and can go with my diet? And at the time I wasn't as strict as I am now with my eating, but I didn't want to put 40 grams of sugar into my body. So I started formulating in my dorm room literally that day. I wanted to make my own Super Coffee, as I was calling it, by just adding protein to black coffee and then sweetening it with things like maple syrup or stevia. And it tasted good. We thought that it didn't taste as bad as the Sharks thought early on. Definitely needed work. But I then used my team, Mark, just as a focus group. So I had access to our target audience, who was my team and my classmates, and started getting feedback. That whole freshman year, I was there with me making batches in my dorm room, trying to create some sort of MVP product at a very small scale, just for a small group of about 100 taste testers. And I'd get constant feedback. And from there, I could make improvements as I went.
That's awesome. So when was your first sale?
So the first sale actually didn't come until 2016, so the next year. So it took me a full year of research and development, trying out different formulas. And actually at the end of that year, going into the summer, is when Jake and I, so my middle brother, who was co-founder, who you saw on Shark Tank, he was going to school at Georgetown. And we applied for the Georgetown Summer Launch Program that summer, which we got into, where we met each other the first time. And it was that summer where we finalized our MVP from all the feedback that I'd gotten. And literally that November, I decided actually to drop out of school because I realized, and we could spend more time on that, but I realized how hard it was going to be. So I dropped out of school, and our first sale came to a Whole Foods Market that fall in November. And then our first business, fiscal year started in January.
That's awesome. How'd you get into Whole Foods? How did you even?
Yeah, so when we were developing our strategy, our go-to-market and just our distribution strategy early on, we wanted to be at a retailer that was known for health and wellness. So we wanted to start really small and focused at a retailer that would resonate with our product immediately, and then expand out from there as we grew. So Whole Foods, that's how we identified Whole Foods. And then getting in there, the benefit of it was Whole Foods at the time actually had a local program. So they could accept local brands and let them sell in store by store, so one at a time. So it was a really small, easy way for us to get our foot in the door. And we started with one store right in Georgetown, and it was perfect. It was like, we're going to be the best selling bottled coffee at this store. We're going to get feedback from real customers. So we were the ones going in, making the deliveries, pouring samples, and selling the product. And that real-time feedback allowed us to keep improving. So that second year was basically the same thing as the first year, with my teammates and my classmates, only it was real customers. So the stakes were a little bit higher. But then the goal from there, Mark, why it was so great, was then we could go store by store and replicate that model in that Mid-Atlantic region with Whole Foods. So we ended up getting up to about 25 stores by ourselves, hand deliveries, pouring samples that first year, before we really started to raise money and expand.
That's awesome. I assume you weren't making it in your dorm room anymore. So how are you making like this kind of volume of drinks?
Yeah, so this was the hard part. These are some of the challenging things that I don't think a lot of investors or the Sharks even understood. But we couldn't produce, obviously, in my dorm room blender. But manufacturers, real food and beverage manufacturers, the types that we work with today, won't take on small brands because the volume is too small, and their fixed costs are too high. So we had to find a very small culinary kitchen in DC. So we would literally go to this culinary kitchen, and it basically acted as my dorm room, where we were making the product ourselves, just in a safe environment that was good for the product. So we would make it there at a small kitchen. We'd do daily production runs because the product was perishable and needed to be kept cold. So we could only make a couple hundred bottles at a time. But by doing that, again, we could constantly improve the formula ourselves. And so we'd run it every day, and then the next day we'd go out and make these deliveries to the stores. So it was constant production, constant distribution, and then on the weekends we'd go back and pour samples.
So what was it like? You added your third brother, right? So what was it like to bring him in? You two have already done the hard work, and then the third brother comes in, and he came in as the CEO, didn't he?
Yeah. So, well, initially he actually came in as our CFO. Because he had a finance background. So he was going to fill that void for us. And we'll skip ahead a little bit, but he did become the CEO about a year later, because I ended up going back to school for a year. And when I went back to school, our investors at the time, because we did have to raise some money, which we'll talk about, but our investor said, hey, we don't want you to be the CEO while you're back at school. And, that was a tough blow for me, because when I was going back to school, it was under the intention that I would, I thought that I'd still be the CEO, but that was just a naive thought, right? Because it wouldn't have never worked out. So they were right. And that's why I think it's good to have a board and good advisors. So that's when Jim became the CEO, and we thought that it was the right move for him, just because he was going to spend a majority of the time raising capital. Because it does take, one thing the Sharks were right, it does take a lot of capital, which we can talk about. And then I quickly realized, wait a minute, I can't even support the company as much as I want. So I ended up dropping out a second time. So I went back to school and then ended up dropping out twice. So I'm a double dropout, which is the family joke. It's constantly running.
We definitely don't want to encourage that here at USD and our partners. But dropped out through the Peter Thiel Fellowship. Can you tell us a little more about that, what that is, and who Peter Thiel is?
Yeah, so I had no intentions. It was actually a dream scenario for me to drop out once, take this massive risk, get some success, and then be able to go back on full scholarship. And I had no intention of dropping out again. I wanted to finish school, and my plan was support the business as much as I could while the brothers kind of ran the day-to-day. But midway through the year, I got a call from a number in Silicon Valley. And I remember it just said Silicon Valley on my phone, and it was ringing. I was like, this is kind of weird. And I answered, and it turned out to be a representative from the Peter Thiel Fellowship. And Peter Thiel was the founder of PayPal, one of the first outside investor in Facebook. So he's a billionaire tech mogul, as they call him, in Silicon Valley. And he started a program that literally funds student entrepreneurs who start companies in college. And then he funds them to drop out of school. So he basically pays your salary and living expenses for 2 years so you can start your company. So you don't have to worry about the burden of dropping out and trying to live a healthy lifestyle. So Peter basically offered me $100,000 is what the payment is for a 2-year period. If I gave up my scholarship and dropped out. And my logic there was, well, I already did it once with nothing. So it's a little bit more logical to drop out this time. At least I'm getting something in return. But additionally, the fellowship provided another level of advisory and expertise that I needed as an entrepreneur for the first time. And going out to San Francisco, we'd go out every 3 months, so once per quarter. And we would just have these weekend-long retreats with so many other amazing student entrepreneurs. They take 20 per year, so it's a very exclusive class. And you just learn about what people are working on, how they're scaling their business, what problems they're facing, how they're solving those problems, how they're building their teams. And I think that really opened my eyes on how big we could really make our company. So I loved every minute of that 2-year program that ended in 2019 for me. But it was a catalyst for our brand for sure.
That's awesome. Before we get to your investors, what is it like working with your two brothers?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons, right? Just like everything. I think the pro is there's an undeniable lifelong relationship of just trust, love, and respect for each other, which a lot of founders, you have to build trust, right? And trust is the cornerstone of any good relationship, I believe. So we have that unwavering trust and belief in each other, which is great because there's a lot going on at all times. So I can't afford to stop what I'm doing to check in, with these guys. So I don't have to do that, which is great. But then at the same time, there is a pecking order in regard to oldest, middle, youngest. And I think that there's tension there too, because we're all uniquely good at different things. So I focus on product and people, mainly operations side of the business, HR, actual product development, innovation, production. Jake is just head of sales. The middle brother tends to be the salesperson. And then Jim, being the CEO, can focus on finance, marketing, legal, more tactical things on that side of the business. So we've kind of stayed in our lanes now, but early on, it was a lot of bumping into heads, just like we were, because it was just the three of us. So we wanted to do everything. And we were doing everything. And it gets very competitive, I think. So as the company scaled, we found ways to separate or divide our labor and focuses, but still agree on the big picture and the vision. And I think that's really important, is as long as you can agree on the goals and the vision and where you want to take the company, and all three of you have that unwavering trust and belief in each other, which we do, then you can disagree sometimes on the tactics or how you're going to get there. So again, pros and cons, but I think the pros far outweigh the cons for us.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So tell me about your investors. Like, tell me from your first investor and to some of the investors you got now, and what is it like working with investors?
Yeah, totally. I think I'll start on the first part. Our first investors, we did a friends and family round of $50,000 just to get us off the ground, basically. And what that allowed us to do was to prove our concept to go beyond friends and family. So we raised $50,000, friends and family, and then in about midway through our first year, so about summer of 2016, we were exhausting that cash, and we needed a $250,000 investment to get us into 2017 and beyond, which leads up to Shark Tank. And we ended up going out and raising actually a little over $500,000. And that was mainly from angel investors in the Mid-Atlantic region. And how that came about was, one, we were desperately pitching everybody we saw, of course, but just again leveraging the network that we had built through Georgetown, through Colgate, using alumni relations, through my university, and even some of our aunts and uncles who did invest. They had friends and families, whether it be doctors or lawyers. So that's the great thing about angel investors, is that I feel like if you get one or two, they're going to convince their friends. And that becomes a nice, powerful group. So we had raised about $750,000 that first year in 2016 into 2017. And then obviously we went on Shark Tank. We filmed Shark Tank in June of 2017. It didn't air until 2018, but we filmed it in June of 2017. We, as you guys just saw, we were asking for $500,000 at that point in time. After the show, again, same thing. A lot of angels. The brand was starting to catch on fire. We started to do pretty well, and we ended up again going out and raising a little bit more. We ended up raising 1.5 million after the show, and that was our 2017 capital, really to get us all the way through our next year of growth, which was 2018 sales.
That's awesome.
So those were the early grassroots stuff, and then from there, Mark, if you want me to talk about like the more formal rounds of Series A and Series B.
Yeah, that'd be great.
After we had bootstrapped those first couple of years, we had raised about 5 million all in. And that was literally probably every 6 months we were raising a round, because the business is expensive. As you heard Rohan say, margins in beverage, we had right around a 40% margin. But we were spending more money on marketing and sales and ingredients, and just cash flow isn't great in the industry. So we needed to go out and raise more money in order to grow the business the way we wanted it to grow. So at the end of 2018, we were getting ready for a pretty big growth year in 2019. We had just done $4.5 million in sales, and we were projecting to do $25 million in sales in 2019. So this massive jump that really hasn't been done before in food and beverage. Most brands, if you do 4 million, at best you'll do 8 to 10 million, and then maybe they'll do 15 million, and then maybe you'll get to 25 million 3 years later. So we're saying we're going to go from 4 to 25. So we ran a model basically with the cash that we had in the bank today, what we would have needed, how many people we needed to hire, what stores we needed to launch, and how much it would cost us to hit 25 million in sales. And it came out to about $12 million was what we would have needed to raise to get there. So we went out, we put together our Series A deck, which was basically our business plan on what we were going to do with the money and how far it would take us. And we ended up raising $14 million at a $50 million valuation, which for the Sharks, they would have made 5 times their money for those doing math in less than 18 months. So it would have been a nice pat on the back for those guys. But so we raised 14 million, and that gave us the money we needed to get through 2019, and we hit our numbers. We ended up doing 26 million that year. So we beat our very aggressive forecast. And then again, just like the past few years, we needed to go out and raise more money. But because we had just done something that not a lot of beverage brands in the history of the industry have done, it was a lot easier. And this time there were a lot more strategic investors. Anheuser-Busch, the largest alcoholic company in the world, has been building their non-alcoholic portfolio because they want to diversify. As beer sales go down, they need to find new brands. And we reached a deal, same thing. We went out to raise our Series B. This year we wanted to do 80 million in sales. So we ran the same model that we ran for our Series A. How much would we need? We ended up raising $25 million at a $225 million valuation. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks after we closed the round, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately, we got the round closed. Unfortunately for our sales, COVID-19 hit, which really had an impact negatively on our sales. So we were supposed to do 80. We'll end up doing about 60 this year because of the pandemic, but we still have, thankfully, plenty of capital in the bank from our fundraising round, and still growing the business significantly. 60 million up from 25 million is still a jump that we're proud of, especially in the pandemic.
Awesome. Going from $600,000 valuation in Shark Tank to 225 million is pretty incredible. You have some pretty cool names, investors like Aaron Rodgers, Jennifer Lopez, Alex Rodriguez. Like, how are you getting those kind of investors?
Yeah, so I think, again, it comes back to your strategy and who you are as a brand and what partners you really want to align with. So as you get bigger, there's really a couple of buckets we think about, but the two main ones are strategics, right? So companies like Anheuser-Busch or Coca-Cola or Pepsi, if you get one of those brands to invest, not only do you get the money in the bank, but you also get distribution, and you also get help on retail. So that's why Anheuser-Busch made so much sense for us, because we get national distribution through them now. They have trucks in every city in the country. And then on the opposite side of it, the biggest thing that we're still finding is our brand awareness is still low. So even though we're in over 20,000 stores now, people see it, they love the product. We're not doing any commercials. We're not spending a ton on marketing. So the other investors that make great sense are celebrities, because not only do you get the money, but they're willing to post it on their social media pages. They'll do events with you. They get a lot of hype and excitement. And naturally, and the good thing for celebrities is they have excess capital that they want to invest in brands. So they're looking for brands like us just as much as we're looking for them. But it just needs to be a good fit. So through our investor network, through some of the partnerships we've done in the past, you get one athlete involved, they tell a friend, you get another one involved. And we grew up playing sports, but the big thing was aligning with people who share our values. And when we met Jennifer Lopez and A-Rod or Aaron Rodgers, there was just a genuine connection for how they live their lives, their focus on health and wellness. Positive energy is our purpose as a company, which we can talk about, and they match with that so well. So it was a natural connection, and we're going to start doing some serious, you guys hopefully will all start seeing some serious campaigns with all of them in the very near future.
That's pretty cool. So real quickly though, how cool was it when you first saw A-Rod like post something with your brand and your bottle? I mean, how did that make you feel?
It was great. It was really cool. And again, that's exactly what we intended, for how the relationship to go. So, it just feels like you're onto something. And obviously saying that and looking back on where we came from, it's like, wow, we've been doing it for 5 years. But when you see something like that, you think about the opportunities ahead, and you think about, okay, here's where we are today. But where can we be in 5 years? If we get people like Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez posting, like, how many people will want to drink super coffee when they start seeing these things? So it gets us really excited about what the next 3 to 5 years have in store for the brand.
That's awesome. You said you're in 20,000 stores. So can you name some of the stores where we can go out and get some of your products, and what states are you guys in?
So we're in all 50 states, which is great. And I think I'll name some regional stores down there. You can find us in Wegmans, Whole Foods, all the giant stores as well. In the Virginia area, we're now in Walmart. We're in Harris Teeter. We are in CVS, and then Target as well. We have a very big presence in Target. So I hope is that you guys virtually can't go into a store and not see Super Coffee. So Wawa as well on the convenience side. So we're in just about every account in the DMV area, but across the country. some of the bigger national accounts like Walmart and Target are really driving the brand right now.
That's cool. I just have like two more questions, and I'm going to open up questions to the audience. But real quickly, in terms of your mission and your alignment with some of these celebrities, like what is the mission and purpose of Kitu?
Yeah, so we like to start with our purpose, just why we exist, and we like to say we like to ignite positive energy for positive change, and that's true in our mission, kind of running simultaneously with that, because purpose and mission to us go hand in hand. So while we want to ignite positive energy for positive change, our mission as a brand every day, what we want to live up to, we want to mass produce positive energy through the products we produce, but also through our actions and our messaging. And for us, that guides everything that we do, our purpose and our mission. So when we hire people, right, for example, because, a company is just a group of people. So if your culture and your values are going to be the people you bring onto the team, they need to fit specific criteria. They need to light up the room when they walk in. They need to make you feel really good. Unfortunately, we can't hire people who, have a negative behavior. That's just one of the tenets of our culture that we take very seriously because it's tied to our purpose. So having a great can-do attitude is something we value a lot. And again, preaching it every day, reinforcing it every day with our partners. You can see on our new packaging, we put positive energy right across the front of it. So trying to live up to mass producing positive energy every day is really why we're in business.
That's awesome. And lastly, what advice would you give young entrepreneurs? These are great students. They're awesome. They got a lot of hustle. What are some of the things you tell them to get out of their dorm room and, be worth $225 million in a couple of years? What should we do?
Yeah, well, I think that this is probably the most fun and broad and creative question you can ask, because there's virtually no limit to what you can do, I think. And that was our mindset, and it still is our mindset. I think you have to have that growth mentality of abundance out there, and you just have to be willing to go out, try and fail, learn, repeat. And that was what our journey's been. It's been a lot of trying things that we didn't think we could do, but learning from our mistakes and improving. Like when I was 19 years old, I had no clue how to start a coffee. Like I had no clue how to do any of this. So I think don't rule out a goal because you think it's unachievable, because once you start that journey, you're going to learn so much that you didn't learn or didn't know, that you're going to be smarter, stronger, better because of it. So continuously evolving and improving as you go is a big part of the puzzle that I think people undervalue. A lot of people think that you have to have this great grand plan from day one and go out and execute that plan. And without that plan, you can't go anywhere. But in reality, if you just have a goal, so I would say get really clear about what it is that you love to do and what you want to do. If you have a clear goal, go for it and figure it out as you go. Obviously, you can work with advisors and mentors who can help you, like Mark, who can help you say, hey, here are some guardrails, to make sure you don't go out of business. But again, a lot of it is learning on the fly. And I think in today's environment, especially, being dynamic is more important than ever. And evolving as you go is more important than having a grand plan, for the next 3 to 5 years.
Jordan, you're just amazing. I'm so excited to see where what was Suniva is now Kitu. You're just so impressive, and we wish you the best of luck. And we will definitely be following you and excited to see where it leads to next.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much, man. It's really cool doing this after the journey we've been on together. And thank you, everybody out there. I appreciate it. My email, by the way, Mark, you can share it, Jordan at Kitu Life. LinkedIn is just Jordan DeCicco. And then all of our stuff is Drink Super Coffee. So our website, drinksupercoffee.com, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And we're constantly, again, being a positive energy platform, we're constantly sharing articles, ways to connect, interact. So please follow us on social, reach out if you guys have any questions. But Mark, seriously, man, thank you. It's been awesome.